Hello and welcome to today's video. This is basically an update video on the Lion King stop motion. If you're wondering why I'm calling this an update video, basically it's because it's not a video telling you anything new about the one I had done before, but rather, well, technically it is now that I realize it, but actually this video is just explaining how I'm going to go about remaking the original one. So what you see here are the new character designs I've done for Simba. All of these characters you see here are Simba through various stages of his life. And since he's the main character of the series of movies, I'll be doing a stop motion of the original Lion King as well as Lion King 2 Simba's Pride. So I will show you the older versions of any of the characters who might be appearing in Simba's Pride, as well as the characters I'm going to be featuring in that specific stop motion film. So let's get started. First we have here baby Simba. Hold on, let me get the camera to focus. There we go. So that's baby Simba. He is very cute and very small. He's a tiny piece of paper. And the way I've cut him is uh, the parts that are too difficult to cut, I've filled in with black pen. And I've cut only this much of the character because I want Rafiki to hold him during the presentation scenes. He's got coloring on the back side as well, because there will be instances when you see his back as Sarabi carries him up Pride Rock. So that's baby Simba. Then here is Simba during the grasslands chant. The grass will be like hanging around here and he'll be running through the grass like this. And that's the other side of grasslands chant Simba. He's also very cute. Then you have cub Simba. This is what he looks like from the front. This is what he looks like from the side. That's his right side. This is his left side. And as you can tell, he's a very small figurine. He will be the one who will feature the most in the first Lion King stop motion. Then you have the cub Simba shadow puppet. Now this is during the transition sequence during the wildebeest stampede. Before they enter the canyon, you can see this Simba leaping behind Scar. So for that scene I created this. Basically I'll stick on a bit of tape that is folded over, and I'll change the position by removing him from the curtain, and that's how I'll show him walking across in the form of shadow puppet. Then you can see another version of Cub Simba. This is for when he holds or hangs onto the branch. I think for about 15 seconds he'll be looking like this. So when the wildebeest are running down the canyon, he'll jump up and he'll hold onto the branch and he'll be hanging like this. And Zazu sees him there and reassures him that Mufasa is coming to save him. After that, we meet teenage Simba. This is what he looks like from the front. That's his right side. That's his left side. He's very handsome. I changed the colors around this time because I wanted them to stand out in the shots. So I made the colors a little brighter. Most of them are colored with sketch pens and markers. And Simba having a bright red mane, it's basically me taking the body paint that the actor wears in the show and applying it to the mane. I tried to transform the costumes of the show to the animal equivalent as accurately as I could. Hence why the characters look the way they do. So you can see his little Bon Jovi inspired hairdo up there. So that's teenage Simba. And then you have mature adult Simba. This is Simba with his full mane. You can see it's the red stands out quite a bit. You can see the sides of his mane beginning to darken here. His body is a lot bigger than teenage Simba, as you can tell. Sorry about the autofocus. I'm still getting used to shooting like this. I haven't shot videos like this before. This is my first time. I'm the first time I'm making videos like these. So that's the size difference between the two characters. He is the one you'll see mainly for the duration of the Lion King to Simba's Pride stop motion, and he is very very nice looking. And that's fully grown Simba. And finally we have another shadow puppet Simba. This time it's, sorry about that, this time it's Simba as an adult. This is for the scene when Simba sees the nightmare of him trying to save his dad, but then Scar comes and then Scar turns into Kovu. It's for that scene. So these are all the versions of Simba for the new Lion King stop motion movies that I will be making either this year. No, definitely not this year. Maybe next year or the next to next year. I'm not sure. I'm still gathering materials. I'm still making all the characters. For the time being, let's meet the main characters. Now we meet Nala. Uh, right here you can see Cub Nala. That's what she looks like from the front. She is also very cute, just like Simba. That's her right side, and that's her left side. So that's Nala as a cub. Then we have Nala as a teenager, later on as an adult. I initially thought of doing a different figurine for Nala as an adult, but I changed my mind about it later on. Felt why waste so much paper just for like an older version of a character who looks mostly the same. And that's Nala from the face. You already saw her sides. She's I tried to copy the masks as much as I could, at the same time simplifying it as much as I could. The basic point here is to capture the feel of like some old African wood carvings, wood figurines. Just like in the show, distill everything to as much stylized a form as I can. And here you have the Nala chase Nala for when she like chases Pumbaa around in the jungle. In the original show, an actor carries a handheld Nala puppet as she chases Pumbaa around. We'll also meet the Pumbaa puppet for this scene as well. This is Nala from the right side. This is Nala from the left. So that's Nala, all the figurines of Nala. Now we get to meet Mufasa, the big man himself. So here you have the Mufasa during the duration of the first movie. That's Mufasa from the left, Mufasa from the right, Mufasa from the front. Something I'm really glad about this time was I used thicker paper than usual than the one I used for the previous iteration of the stop motion movie. And as a result, I didn't have to like stick a paper clip to support the head. In the previous version of the stop motion movie, I had to attach a paper clip at the front of the figurine so I can hold the head up, otherwise the figurine would collapse. This time I didn't have to do that, and I am very grateful that my idea of using thicker paper for the characters worked. I originally wanted the face to stick out from the mane, but then I felt that would be too cumbersome, and I just thought I'd keep everything as simple as I could. So that's Mufasa, the main figurine. Then we have Mufasa for the grasslands chant sequence. This little version of Mufasa will be running across the plains among the grass as he leads Simba up to Pride Rock for his morning lesson. Then there is Mufasa during the waterfall sequence, where Simba experiences a flashback of when Mufasa died in the stampede. In the original show, the expression on this Mufasa puppet is the same as the actual Mufasa mask that the actor wears. But I thought I'd change it to a more sad expression because this is a sad memory from Simba's past. And it's something that really it represents how Simba feels about hurting his dad. It's an expression of his guilt, so I felt I should make Mufasa's face sad for this flashback. Then finally we have the Mufasa shadow puppet for the Simba's nightmare sequence in Simba's Pride. This is what he looks like. This is inspired by the design I did for a light projection for my Lion King live. This is what the Mufasa's face in that version of Lion King looks like. So these are all the characters, Mufasa figurines, sorry, for the Lion King stop motion films. Now we have Sarabi. Sarabi is exactly the same in the first Lion King stop motion film as well as Simba's Pride stop motion. It's a close up on her face. From the ensemble lionesses, she's the only one with a face that projects like this. All the other lionesses' faces will not stick out from their bodies this way. They'll be attached to the rest of the figurine. It's to help distinguish the main characters from the side characters. That's why I made their faces stick out like that. This is something I'll be doing for all the animal characters in the movies. And she's basically the same in both the films, so that's it for Sarabi. Here we have Scar. This is what Scar looks like in my stop motion version of Lion King. I made the orange a little brighter so he can be seen more clearly in the shots. That's what his face looks like. To represent his skin, I have this one foreleg sticking out. I decided to give him all four legs like in the movie because the image of like one of his legs just being a stump makes him, I don't know, makes him look a lot less menacing in my opinion. Then we have the shadow puppet Scar for the wildebeest stampede scene. Then we have the Scar face from Simba's Nightmare in Simba's Pride, the stop motion film. So that's it for Scar. Now we move to the supporting cast. This is the positive supporting cast, the supporting cast of the heroes. So as you can see here, we have Rafiki, there's Zazu, Timon, and Pumbaa. Let's start with Rafiki. Rafiki, as you can see here, is I tried to make her look as much like real mandrill as possible. So you have her beautiful facial markings, and there's Rafiki's staff that I'm holding here, otherwise it'll fall out of her hand. Then that's what she looks like from the back. You can see her butt here, it's yellow and blue, and there's a bit of her mane at the back as well. I tried to incorporate as much of the like costume design as I could. So her body is red, but her mane is blue. Her hands and her feet are yellow. And the stick looks exactly like the original stick from the Broadway production. I got rid of things like her headband and her skirt because I wanted her to look as as much like a real baboon as possible. So that's Rafiki. The fact that I've made her arms stick out like that is very helpful because I think she's a character who does a lot of like human-like actions, like she'll be carrying stuff around or holding stuff. So having her look like this with her arms stretched out and her fingers like that is really helpful for such things. This is another version of Rafiki. This is for when she has to like show the baby to the animals. So for instance, we have baby Simba here. All I have to do is stick him in her hands like that. Whoops. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. So all I have to do is, as you can see, her fingers are folded like that a bit. Yeah, there we go. So all I have to do is I have to put the baby lion in her hands like that, and she'll be holding him up for the animals to see. He's shaking because he's in my hand. The characters are in my hands now. But when I put it in the actual movie, they won't shake as much, I hope. So that's Rafiki in her like presentation form, as I would call it. Then we have Zazu. Now in the original show, Zazu is portrayed in two ways. Both are puppets. One is a small kite that the Zazu actor sort of like makes it fly around. There are a bunch of other birds that are represented in the form of kite puppets. Then there's the actual very cool handheld Zazu puppet that the actor uses for most of the show. I decided to combine both the puppets into one. So as you can see here, this is the base of the puppet. It's blue. It's to represent the blue costume of the original puppeteer. And you can remove Zazu from his base as well, and I can like put his beak or his feet onto like a kebab skewer and make him like fly around. That's what his wingspan looks like, and that's his face. I wonder what gossip he's gotten into this time. And all I do is like for scenes where he's on the ground with the characters, I just stick him in there like that, and he can walk around on the stage. He can be flying. If I want him to like bow, he can go like that. If I want him to be surprised, he can be like that, and so on. So that's Zazu. Then we have Timon and Pumbaa. Now, Timon, in the original stop motion I did a front view of Timon. This time I've done a side view, and this is a callback to his puppeteer, the green base of Timon. So that's Timon's left side, and that's his right side. He has a cheeky smile that's reflective of his personality, and the way he sits is also like a real meerkat. Then there is another form of Timon that is important for the Simba's flashback scene at the waterfall. So Timon, like he hangs on a branch before he falls into a lake of crocodiles. So that's what this is for. Then we have Pumbaa. I tried to make Pumbaa's colors a bit more like a real warthog. And he's also smaller than the lions this time. In the show, the Pumbaa puppet is huge. But I decided to stick more closely with the actual, like the size of the actual animals instead of the human beings. So that's Simba compared to Pumbaa. So as you can see, even though he's big and chubby, he's smaller than Simba, since lions are much bigger than warthogs. That's Pumbaa in his main figurine form. This is Pumbaa for during the scene when Nala chases him around in the jungle. His expression is different. As you can see, it's a lot more worried. He's a lot more tensed. He's running around the jungle going, "She's gonna eat me!" And so that's about it for the good guy supporting cast. Then we have the negative supporting cast in the form of the three hyenas. So that's Shenzi, that's Banzai, and that's Ed. Now, if you look at their mouths, you can see that I've done this thing where I use two pieces of paper to do their faces. You can see clearly that Shenzi has a mouth open, you can see a tongue and everything, and a teeth. The reason I did this was to represent first of all, it's a callback to their original form in the stage show, where they have these giant heads that the actors manipulate to show them talking. Another reason is to represent their greedy and gluttonous nature. They're always on the lookout for food, they're always hungry, so they keep their mouths open all the time. This is how the main hyenas look. As for the other hyenas, like the background hyenas, they won't look like this. Like with the lionesses I mentioned earlier, their heads will be part of their bodies. It won't like stick out from their bodies like this. So that's about Shenzi. This is Banzai. Banzai also has the open mouth going on, and his eyes are like crazy like that. His I wonder what made him get worms in his stomach though. If you know the like Madness of King Scar song, you know what I'm talking about. That's Banzai. And finally we have Ed. So Ed has his tongue sticking out, his crazy eyes. I don't know what they did with Ed's face in the Broadway show. I didn't try to do anything to change that. I kept it the way it is. He also has ribs because in the Lion King Pride Rock on Broadway book, the actor who played Ed asked that the costume designers put ribs in Ed's shirt so he can look skinnier, more malnourished, more underdeveloped than the other two hyenas. So that's why he's got ribs there. I thought that's a cool detail. So that's about it for the negative supporting cast. And now we move on to the sequel characters. So what we've got here is Kiara, all the representations of Kiara in the stop motion movies. First off, you have baby Kiara. This is at the end of the first movie and at the beginning of the second. To indicate that she's a female lion cub, I've exaggerated her eyelashes as is typical, and that's what her back looks like. This is Kiara as a cub. She kind of looks like a baby Sarabi, if you ask me. So that's Kiara as a little baby lioness. Then this is Cub Kiara, but as a shadow puppet. Now, if you have watched part 3 of my Lion King to Simba's Pride musical, you remember the scene where they escape from the crocodiles. And there I've shown the cubs playing, like wading through the lake in the form of shadow puppets, because I figured out that having the actual actors run around like that on stage would be very exhausting because they have a song to sing after that. So I figured that the actors could stay in the wings while some dancers could represent them trying to escape the crocodiles via shadow puppets. So that's Kiara's shadow puppet, and we'll see Kovu's shadow puppet a little later. This is teenage Kiara. That's what her face looks like. That's her left side, and that's her right side. I think her head turned out a little too small. That's okay. So these are the figurines for Kiara from the Simba's Pride musical stop motion. Now these are the paper figurine representations of Kovu for Simba's Pride, the musical stop motion. First we have Baby Kovu. This is for the Born to be King musical number. Zira like picks him up and walks him around and shows him to the outsiders because she's excited at the first birthday of her son. I've established that Kovu is a year older than Kiara in this show. That's what he looks like from the back, and he's got the cool tuft of hair at his on his head as well, and the green eyes. Then we have Cub Kovu. This is what Kovu looks like in the front. He looks just as cool as he does in the cartoon. That's what he looks like from the right side. That's his left side. That's Cub Kovu. Then we have Shadow Puppet Kovu for the scene where they escape the crocodiles in the lake. So that's Shadow Puppet Kovu. Then we have Teenage Kovu. This is when he grows up and he's completed his training and he gets ready to kill Simba. But then he actually spends time with them and learns the truth about his family and Scar and all that. That's what he looks like from the front. Yep, he looks as awesome as he did in the cartoon. Just that his mane isn't black anymore, it's blonde, keeping with what was established in the first show. Then we have this interesting puppet. This is for the scene when Kovu rescues Kiara. I figured that it would be impractical for the actors to actually carry, for the Kovu actor to carry the Kiara actress around for the scene. So I came up with this puppet representation of Kovu with Kiara on his back, and he runs between dancers holding a giant silk sheet that represents the flames running across the savannah. So this is what that represents. And finally, we have Shadow Puppet Kovu for the nightmare sequence. When Simba sees the nightmare of losing his dad again, this is what Kovu looks like in that sequence. I've exaggerated his expression a bit to represent Simba's warped perception of Kovu. And the red indicates that these are bad guys. I did the same thing with Scar as well for the exact same scene. So those are the representations of Kovu in the Simba's Pride musical stop motion. And last of all, we have Vitani here. This is Vitani as a lioness cub. That's her hair tuft. The blue eyes that she is known for, the bluish purple eyes, I could not highlight them properly because of how thick the lines of the markers are. That's pretty unfortunate. And it's my fault. I should have used a thinner pen to draw Vitani so you can see her eyes much better. That's grown up Vitani. That's what she looks, that's what her face looks like. That's her left side, that's her right side. So with that, we come to the end of the characters from the stop motion movies I'm going to make. Actually, all these characters were going to be much smaller than that. Like the adult characters were going to be this big. So imagine how tiny the other like smaller characters, like the kid characters or the characters who are like smaller animals would have been. I put them in a box in my room because I did not want to use them anymore. And the reason I decided against that was because if I were to like, I don't know, I just felt like making everything the same size as they were in the original stop motion movies would be much better. And I didn't want to worry about like, oh, I'm gonna waste so much paper or any such thing. I just want to like go all out and try to recapture a bit of that like high, that excitement that I got while working on the original stop motion movie. And this time I'm going to do the sequel as well. So like comic book can only show so much. You cannot get a feel of the choreography or the staging or the transitions or the blocking in a comic book. So even though I'll be finishing the comic book of Simba's Pride the musical, I figured that if I did a stop motion of the same thing, it would help better convey the length and the like scale and the like how the choreography will look for this particular Broadway show. So that's why I decided to go to the original size of the characters instead of the newer, smaller version I attempted to make. Here we have Zira and Nuka. Zira is the main antagonist of Simba's Pride. And then there's Nuka over here. That's Zira. Zira, I tried to make her look as emaciated as possible. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce the word. Is it emaciated or emaciated? If someone knows English better than me, please correct me. That's what Zira's face looks like. If you're wondering why I made her face like this, it's to represent her perpetual need for revenge, her violent tendencies. She's not like Scar. Scar is like all like crazy and sassy. I didn't do that with Zira. Doesn't have Scar's charm or charisma. She's just extremely bloodthirsty and violent. All she wants is a fight and a fight to the death in the cause of Scar. That's her main goal. So you can see her ribs. That indicates how skinny she is, and she's got her like forehead stripe as well. Then we have Nuka. I distorted Nuka's proportions in order to show that he's kind of underdeveloped both as a character and as a lion. So that's what Nuka's face looks like. His face looks a lot like Scar's face, except this is some biologically impossible. When you squint your eyes, your eyebrow should follow it. It should not go up like that. So I did that to represent Nuka's demented state of mind, and that's his crazy mane. His elbow tufts, his a bit of mane on the chest. Again, ribs to show how emaciated he is, and his body is like very unnaturally hunched. It's kind of like a German Shepherd, I guess. So that's what Nuka looks like, and that's it for Zira and Nuka, who are the main like negative characters in Simba's Pride. Speaking of that smaller version of the stop motion movies, here is a prototype Pride Rock that I made, as well as a little water pond. This is the water pond that Simba looks into during He Lives in You when he wants to see his father's reflection. Sorry, his father's reflection. And this is the prototype Pride Rock. This was the size of Pride Rock that was originally going to be in the like first version of the stop motion, and then I changed my mind about the size and everything. I was going to like just shade in the different layers of Pride Rock to make it look like it's got three layers. Then I decided, since I'm going to make it bigger, the details will be more apparent there. So when I make it bigger, I'll make it like actually like each of the layers stand out. And this one I made a few years back when I first thought of remaking this. I had remade Mufasa, Nala, Simba, and Rafiki. and I made this as well. And then I tried to make them all smaller again, but Pride Rock turned out looking very ugly, so I got rid of those as well. And over here you have the original version of the stage that I was going to use for shooting these. uh, I'm still retaining this concept, which is like the back of the stage will be curved, and this is what the ground row mountains are going to look like. This is inspired by the original set models for the Broadway show, where the like mountains would be like coming down here like in a dip at the middle. And like reading Pride Rock on Broadway really helped me design some of the sets better. Like it gave me a new perspective on what I was actually doing. I didn't have much of an idea about what I was doing when I did the first version of the stop motion movies, but reading that book helped me clarify a lot of my doubts, and it gave me insight into some things about what was actually going on in the stage show. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know when I will begin shooting this. It will obviously take a lot more effort this time. When I did my first stop motion Lion King, I did not have much time on my hands. I had to get everything done as quickly as I could because it was 10th grade and our final exams. Like the 10th grade final exams are really are a huge deal in where I live. So my parents were always like insisting that I study instead of spend my time doing stuff like this. They tried to assure me that I'll have time to work on this later on, but I did not trust them then. So I did whatever I could, and it turned out fine, I guess. But the issue was, it looked very rough. It did not look very complete. Like there was no background or anything. Like the cyclorama, I did not do anything to recreate the cyclorama from the actual show. So this time I'll try to change that. I'm planning on designing a special table on which I can put the stage and I can shoot all these things. The table will be designed in such a way that I can use it for storing stuff as well as shooting the movie. I'll have to make designs for it, and I'll either try making the table myself or have my dad help me make it. And well, all things are up to the will of God ultimately. So if I get time, maybe next year or the year after that, I'll try working on these stop motion films. Thank you for watching.